Hello and welcome back to Coast to Coast. It's Lou Mercuri and Beau, and it's been quite a while, Beau. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Yeah, we had a little break. Lots been going on, so I'm pretty happy to get back into it. I'm actually looking forward to it, which is good.
Yeah, if you're new to this, I'm Lou Mercuri. I'm over here in Melbourne. This is Coast to Coast. I'm one of the technology specialists here at Microsoft. And when I'm not doing this stuff, I'm mainly playing a lot of music with my musical colleagues. Beau?
Yeah, hey everyone. So if you've not met or heard from me before, I'm Beau Faull. I'm a technology specialist here at Microsoft out of Perth, Western Australia. I also have developed a keen interest in music recently because of Lou. So I've kind of got an audio file, a bit of research that I'm doing at the moment as well. So I think Lou's ticked that off for me.
Yeah, I'm very envious of those headphones you got there, Beau.
Oh, they're pretty good.
Oh, man, so jealous. It's on my list. I'll get them soon. Anyway, today we're going to cover off a bit of what's new in the world of Purview, Microsoft Purview, of course. For me, the biggest news is something I'm going to demo a little bit later. It's around our insider risk management solution. More specifically, we've got the ability now in public preview to implement forensic evidence. Very, very cool stuff. So a bit more on that later. What have you got for us, Beau?
I think a lot of our customers have been really, really keen for that forensic evidence as well.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of recent announcements, particularly around DLP. So we've got a few things that have come out post-Ignite. So we have coming out, they're not out yet, they're in preview, but the ability to configure authorized printers. So you can create groups of printer devices and designate those actions for each group with DLP. So you can say you can only print to certain printers within your organization. We've got authorized USBs, and that's the same thing. So we can designate specific USBs that we can copy data to, and that can be used in endpoint devices.
That's getting really granular.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there.
Because it's a big gap that we've had for a little while, but this just gives us that granularity that we are able to kind of designate printers. Printers specifically has been a huge one from customers asking, but being able to print both is huge.
Because, of course, one of the benefits of our endpoint DLP solution is that it's not a block to printing per se. It's a very selective, almost like a gate. You know, your policy will say you can print, but this sensitive information is going to be controlled.
Yeah.
And what this fixes, of course, is saying, well, this sensitive information can only be printed to that subset of printers.
Yes, exactly. So they can designate just their office printers, for example. Obviously, it's not going to work too well if you're working from home trying to do your printers. You'd have to enroll them all, but you've got the option to do that if you really want.
You could buy a second printer.
That's right. You could have multiple printers. We've also got authorized network file share paths. So you can create network paths now and designate restrictive actions on specific paths. So you can say, if you've got a highly sensitive area within your network file share somewhere, let's do enhanced protections on the data that's available within there. And we've got two other capabilities coming out in preview. So we can now do conditional grouping, and you can do and or not operators, whereas before it had to be and within a DLP policy. So it'd have to be sensitive information and this. You couldn't segment that out as or not operators. That's changing. So that's a big ask coming up as well. And you can now use trainable classifiers within your DLP policies. So that was a limitation we had in place before. That's currently in preview. It's coming out GA early next year off the top of my head, but then we can start using trainable classifiers and the ones that you create in your own DLP policies. The last thing is that the AIP Unified Labeling Scanner is moving into the compliance or the purview portal, so that now instead of managing your M365 workloads and your cloud workloads for DLP and information protection in the portal, and then having to go across onto the on-prem system to look after the AIP stuff, that's being moved into there. So all the management, all the scanning, everything's now going to be in the one place.
I'm just wondering, there's no reason now at all to visit the old AIP portal, is there?
Now that that's moved in, so all the scanning is there, the setting up the endpoints, the SQL database link, all of that stuff is now managed via the Purview portal.
Beautiful. I love it.
It's good. And with that, that's my updates, Lou, so I might hand over to you.
Yeah, that's some cool stuff. And I'm doing some Ignite updates for some customers next week as well. So I'm sure to cover some of that and look into it a bit deeper as well. There's so much to talk about. And obviously, we just look at a subset of all those updates.
Yeah, and even that, what I just spoke about, is a subset of a subset only on USB, right? Just for DLP. So There's hundreds of different things that have come out for. I posted a fair bit of them on LinkedIn as well, just to try to keep people up to date. But there's so much going on. It's hard to cover it all.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, I'm going to share my screen in a minute, so I'm going to look like an idiot because when I start spinning plates, I start looking a bit discombobulated, so bear with me. But as we mentioned earlier, I think that one of the biggest things that I'm really interested in is the release of our forensic evidence capability. This is something that I've been personally involved in, or at least interested in, for the last couple of years. We've had a number of customers looking at our insider risk management solution and coming on a journey with us and helping us make it a better product. But one of the gaps has always been that last part to say, yes, we've got great evidence here that, Mercuri is up to no good, and there's great evidence here, and I can build my case and manage this insider threat. But I'm really looking for that last smoking gun piece of evidence, which is that desktop recording that shows me him doing the thing he shouldn't have done. And I'm happy to say it's actually here now. So let me just flip over to my screen and we can just jump in and have a look here.
Yeah, and just while you're flipping over to that as well, Lou, I don't think I've had a single customer conversation about this that hasn't come up in. How do I collect the actual evidence that this activity has occurred? A log is one thing, but having video evidence of a person that's actually done that behavior and exactly what they did, that's a massive gap.
Indeed. So what we're looking at here is, to Beau's point earlier, everything we're doing and talking about these days lives at that one Purview portal at compliance.microsoft.com, and within that, I'm within the insider risk management solution itself. And if you're new to insider risk management, very, very briefly, the concept here is that we're going to build some policies here that target our users, and they're kind of sitting there dormant, waiting for activity that triggers insider risk management to start monitoring or start reasoning over the auditing events that are available within our platform. It's unified auditing, so we're not introducing new auditing, we're not introducing new anything. We're reasoning over the Azure AD logs, we're looking over all the existing auditing that's already in place, but we're bringing in the insight that's going to help us identify any of those insider threats. And you can see here that I've actually got 3 policies in place. I've got one looking out for general data leaks, one looking out for data leaks coming from priority users. You might have noticed the prefix here around SOCI, and that relates to the Security of Critical Infrastructure Act and requirements around that. So part of those efforts might be using insider risk management to monitor for the sake of compliance, as well as obviously insider threat. But I'm also looking
on that one as well, Lou, just sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Is all of the 365 telemetry can get correlated in here. So comms compliance policies correlate in here. DLP policies correlate in here. Info protection stuff correlate in here. So kind of think of this as that central correlation point for all that M365 telemetry. That all goes into insider risk.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, Office 365 plus everything on the left-hand side here, this is almost like a SIEM for the Microsoft 365 platform. We're taking those signals, we're correlating here, we're generating insight. And incidentally, if you are using a SIEM outside of this solution, then we can generate alerts for Sentinel or even third-party SIEMs, and this becomes another connector for those external solutions as well. But in this case,
just your SIEM into a SIEM.
Yeah. Just daisy chain your SIEMs and away you go, depending on who's looking at this stuff. But you'll notice here as well that in this view, I've also got a policy looking out for Victorian cabinet members. This is a demo tenant that I produced for the my Victorian government agency customers. So I'm trying to customize as much as possible. The significance here is that anything relating to any Victorian cabinet member is sensitive information. Certainly anything relating to our Premier is sensitive information. Coincidentally, we've got an election happening in a couple of weeks, so it's all the more topical. But let's cut to the chase. These policies sitting here waiting for triggering events. I've actually got one here that's already occurred, and I've opened up a case. And this is a case I've called IRM case 001. You can see who the user is, but by default, we actually anonymize the users because I want to make sure investigators aren't introducing any bias. This person might be a friend of mine, in which case I might be a little bit more lenient than I should be, perhaps. There's a lot of detail here, but I want to draw your attention to a couple of things here that as I scroll down, you'll see that we get a really good sense of what this single user has been up to in regard to their use of sensitive information. So a number of files that are sensitively, that are labelled as sensitive, a number of sensitive information types, we've got keywords, etc. None of this necessarily is a problem, but what is interesting is the alerts that we actually get generated from this. And you'll see here I've actually got one confirmed that's come through from that policy we saw earlier. So now we're actually digging in and realizing that, hey, when it comes to this user, I've got a triggering event. Something significant has happened. And that significant thing is that this user has been tripping DLP alerts all over the place. Now, I've got confidence my DLP policies are managing that exfiltration. I've got confidence we're not losing data. And I've also got visibility within the DLP console. I'll see all those alerts and I'll be dealing with those alerts. But what I'm looking for here is more broader patterns of behavior. But this is a trigger. You can see on the left-hand side here more detail as well. I'm just going to give myself a bit more space here to sort of scroll down a bit because we can see a lot more content detection happening here as well. Now, what starts getting interesting, now remember we're within a case, I'm actually investigating this behaviour. So on the left-hand side, I'm starting to get a sense of what this user is up to. There's been an unusual volume of sensitive files being read. Two of those files are actually very, very sensitive. We've got some files being renamed, and this could be an example of obfuscation and problems around that. You might notice this little hyperlink right there, view forensic evidence, and this is the new bit that I'm going to refer to in a second. We've got some files being deleted as well, view forensic evidence. Sensitive files moved to new locations, view forensic evidence. So we get to the point where I'm doing this kind of investigation. Traditionally, I'd be in this view, and you can see on the right-hand side here, I've got the evidence in, if you like, the raw form that I've always had, but we now have the ability to hit that link and we're redirected to the forensic evidence. What's the word for this? Portal, table,
tab,
node, tab, whatever you like to call it.
You name it, you can call it that.
Yeah, the smoking gun portal, because frankly, what we've landed in here is the video clip, and I'll just expand this to give us a bit more space here. And when I hit play, remembering that we got redirected here from that activity log, I'm going to see the behavior. It's a screen recording, it's a screen scrape, if you like, of that end user's endpoint.
You'll change the recording time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got the defaults here, and what's happening is that my policy for forensic evidence is looking out for any USB file transfers.
Okay. Yep.
And when it sees it, it's going to capture 30 seconds before, 30 seconds after. Now that you can see right then, I'll just pause it, and you can see also, by the way, how I can step through this if I don't want to just hit play. So round about here, this is the view, and let me just hit pause over here and step through manually. So here's that file transfer. It's going across to a USB key. I'm obviously exfiltrating sensitive information. Here's my confidence that my DLP policy is working.
Yeah.
Okay, it was an unsuccessful attempt. DLPs did its thing. I'm going to find this alert within the DLP console. I can deal with it. But what this is showing is if I need it for the sake of evidence, I've got that recording of the actual event. Let me minimize this and come back down again. You'll see here that's a 1 minute, 1 second clip. Jumping into the next clip, it's another 1 minute, 2 second clip.
I like it provides the device name and everything on it. With that, I assume that's going to need an agent then?
Yeah,
in order to capture
absolutely.
Yep.
And that's the one departure for this. And this is why it's taken a little while to get this off the ground, because one of the things we tried doing early on, and this is, as far as I'm aware, it's been a couple of years in the making. I think I first worked with the product group on this. I don't take any credit, by the way, but first spoke with them about this a couple of years ago. And even at that stage, during the mock-up stages, there were discussions around, well, how do we do this? Do we use the built-in agents? or built-in services in Windows, or do we need to be more selective? But in the end, there's an agent. So I'll go through the setup in a couple of minutes, but you can see here that at the end of the day, I've got a real sense here of what's happening on that endpoint. And the idea here is that once you've got the clips that are sort of significant that you need from an evidence point of view, we can export them and actually come down as movie files, discrete clips, and you'll find that when I open these files up, we get multiple little video files, and I'm going to thrill seek here and hit play. Here we go. We've got a full screen clip.
The demo gods, I see.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. It's excellent. Oh, this is me playing with Miracast, trying to sort my demo out earlier. I recognize this. I gave up in the end. There we go. Miracast connecting to Lose Surface Pro X. It actually worked. I was quite pleased about that. But yeah, once you've got the right clips, and the idea is that this becomes evidence that if I back out a little bit, let's come back to the alert view. Now that I've finished collecting all that evidence and I'm within a case, let me just jump back into that case. Sorry for jumping around like this. But once I've done that investigation, I will, if there's a real case to escalate here, I'll escalate this to e-discovery. It's going to pull across this user as one of the custodians. At the moment, during our preview period, those clips don't come across automatically. So you'll need to export them the way I just showed you and then add that to the e-discovery case if you need them as additional bits of evidence. But the plan is eventually, by doing the single action, IRM case
It'll copy
001,
with it.
It's absolutely, it's going to drag the videos over as well and everything else that's required. And at that point, of course, the distinction between what we're looking at and e-discovery is that here, this is completely and only relating to a single user.
Yeah.
Once we get into e-discovery, we can start looking for collusion, additional users, and pulling in other custodians and looking at those patterns. But it's a great way to actually more proactive. I know I've got a lot of customers who will begin with their controls and then jump straight to e-discovery when there's a sign of a problem, and that's a big step to take. So this is a nice intermediary.
I think it's definitely that smoking gun, right? A lot of people shouldn't, but I know people do argue with logs. Oh, the logs are wrong, or I didn't actually do this, but now that it's on film, it's being recorded, that you've actually taken that action. And that's going to be after they've done things like logged on via conditional access and multi-factored in.
Yeah, for sure. And
controls.
And you're going to be selective.
Can't argue.
Yeah, you're going to be selective about this. Look, in terms of setup, let's jump to the settings way over here, because you did ask the question earlier. And look, yes, we need an agent. Nothing's going to happen without an agent being deployed, and we're calling this the Purview client for Windows. It's Windows only at the moment during preview, but we are going to be looking at Mac and so on further down the track. But there is a client to be deployed. Now, because of the way this works, deploying a client on its own isn't going to introduce any scanning or any impact on the endpoint, because it's not until the policy brings that end user into scope that the agent activates and begins recording. So think of this in terms of, I want to deploy the agent to all my endpoints and have it sitting there dormant, having it ready. Having it ready so that if ever one of my users comes into scope of one of these policies, and I'll just give you a quick look here, because I've got two choices, I can either target users and record everything. Now, the demo you saw me walk through earlier was only recording if there was USB activity happening. And in fact, this is the kind of policy you would build to do that, where I'm jumping in and saying, look, I want a policy that will only trigger when I see file transfers to USB, or will only trigger when I'm seeing browser uploads or downloads, but I don't record anything else. Or
and that's still user specific as well, right?
Absolutely.
Like you can have every device in there. It's only when that user logs into that device and then does an activity that it's going to do the recording.
Correct. Yeah, and we don't target devices with these policies. We're targeting users.
Yep.
And then we wait for those users to, as I said, come into scope of those policies, and then they'll kick off the recording. There's a lot of control here as well around who is going to be managed. We've got role-based access control and multiple stages of approval as well. So once again, it's not enough to deploy the client and then build a policy. You still have to go through the process of adding somebody to a policy. Optionally, giving them a notification that they're being monitored, and wait for the request to capture a device is approved by somebody. Now, you might be the one person who does all the adding and then approval, but it's two discrete steps. And ideally, we're doing this to make sure that we've got users and we've got controls over who's doing what.
Well, that aligns into that segmentation of duties, right?
Yeah.
If you have the capability to do that, you should split them up. But obviously that doesn't apply to every business because they don't have enough people.
Yeah, and look, and Beau, that's all I really wanted to walk through, just to give you a bit of a taste of what we're doing with forensic recording. And as you know, inside of risk management, it's a massive area. There's a lot of other improvements that have happened along the way as well. But I think this is one of those big steps. And from a customer point of view, during the preview period for, I don't even know how long this is going to be, at least 120 days or thereabouts, I'm guessing, typically. There's no restrictions on use, other than I think we're doing 5 concurrent users at a time with unlimited uploads and downloads. I didn't show you the setting. There are bandwidth controls as well as to how much video clip is being recorded and how much is being uploaded, downloading, and even offline controls.
Yeah, I was going to say, because otherwise, if you're recording like 30 minutes of a behavior, that's going to get pretty heavy. Yeah.
And if you're using that policy of, record everything all the time, and you might have, coming back to that SOKI scenario, there might be some priority high-risk users, and that's basically it. Everything happening on this laptop needs to be constantly recording in case we need to drill in and do some forensics. So in that case, as I mentioned, bandwidth controls, we can kind of buffer up locally on the endpoint and then trickle feedback up to inside of risk management.
Oh, that's awesome. I think it's one of my favorite products at Inside Risk, if I'm being honest. So the more stuff we add to that, the easier it's going to be. And like I said, that's been a feature that's been really heavily requested from pretty much all of the conversations I've had, was the ability to capture the actual activity itself, just because a lot of customers have had those issues where people will just try to dispute logs. It very rarely works. But once there's a smoking gun and they've been recorded doing it, it kind of takes away that entire argument.
Yeah. And look, there are other solutions that do a similar thing. And yes, they're also agent-based. But hopefully that ability to go from the events and then click view forensic evidence and stay within the portal and just have that context between the clips and the events, that's something nobody else can do. This is something that's completely
that correlation.
Yeah,
that correlation, I think that's the big sweet spot, right? Because we're feeding everything into that. This is just an added piece of evidence on top of the stuff we were already collecting.
Yeah. Well, that's it from me, Beau, because I reckon that's pretty hard to top.
Oh, no, I'm not even going to attempt. I think we just move into the toy box and we have a little chat about something we're keen on. So I think for me this week, I've been obviously building a lot of Lego. You can't see it behind the camera on, but I've got a whole bunch of Lego back.
Yeah. I'll take your word for it.
Next time I'll try and not have a fake background, but I've got a microphone here as well. So it kind of puts you out of the illusion. But I've been building more Lego. I've got one of these now, so I'll be building this over the weekend with my kid. I can kind of make it magically pop out.
That's a very nice slow reveal. I like it.
Yeah, so it's good. But yeah, so this is the Luke Skywalker helmet. So I'm going to build that one over the weekend with my son, and we'll go from there. We'll see how long it takes us to destroy it and then rebuild it with my 7-year-old.
I was going to ask how old your son is. 7 years old, yeah?
Yeah, we'll build it. He'll destroy it. We'll rebuild it. So it'll be good.
How long would that take to build? Seriously?
Probably if it's just me, probably like 4 or 5 hours of just plodding along. If it's with my 7-year-old, probably 3 days.
Yeah, wow. So I'm still of that generation where Lego was literally just a bucket of blocks, wasn't it?
Oh, he still has those. So they've got adult Lego. Yeah, that's right. But they got adult Lego, so they've got I bring this in.
Oh yeah.
Like architecture Lego and stuff like that.
That is cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty sweet. So it gives you, it's the Empire State Building. It gives you, there's a whole bunch of them. There's like even ones for like Hogwarts and stuff. I don't have the Hogwarts ones, but I'm sure that people are keen on them. But yeah, there's heaps of them. So I've kind of been built into that when I'm not building a computer or doing something else and building Lego, which is good.
Too much time in your hands, mate. So look, my toy box item is this baby.
Ah.
But I've got to confess, it's been sitting here for about 4 years.
How much dust is on there, Lou?
Oh, yeah, too much. Is it in tune? It's in tune.
Is it? Can't hear it.
I'll take my word for it. It sounds awesome. But I did drag it out the other day and gave it a bit of a bang around and instantly realised why I haven't been practicing, because the calluses started coming back up again.
I was about to say, you bet you that nailed your fingertips again if you've not been using it.
Yeah, painful. Anyway, that's me, mate.
No, it's good. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Normally we would have a guest on. We have it this week just because there was a lot of news and we wanted to show off the forensic capabilities. Next week, or next month, I guess, we will have a guest. Most of you will know who she is, but I won't announce it until that's actually been officially done.
Yeah, we'll be better at getting a more regular cadence happening as well. It's been some bit busy lately.
It's been a busy couple of months.
Busy.
I guess next time on Coast to Coast, like I said, we're going to run through the latest news and more purview updates. There is so much purview updates going on that we could probably cover the next 6 episodes with them, just with what's out at the moment. Yep. And like I said, we'll have that special guest. So make sure you do tune in. This will be back to a regular cadence of once a month, and we'll go from there. So any feedback, any questions, come back to us and let us know. Thank you.
See you next time.